It's a wonderful world in Tuscia. Every time I see my team video, I wonder, man, this land is very good looking. Let me get Julia. Julia, do you agree?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I agree, Giulio. Hi, how are you?
I am good. We missed you last week. Are you okay?
Yes, I'm okay, but last week was very important because it
Of
was
course.
my mom's birthday, so I wanted to celebrate it with her. She is so
You
sweet.
did absolutely right. So,
Yeah,
Julia,
so
we
thank you.
have a little surprise, and I'm going to let you guys talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Benedetta. Benedetta, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for the introduction. I don't know if I deserve it, but thank you
Oh,
anyway.
absolutely, absolutely. But
Good to see you
Benedetta,
guys.
Benedetta, something just happened, so we have to change a little bit the program. Ladies and gentlemen, here are Robert and Elisabetta. Hi,
Hi,
Hello.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
how are you
Hello.
guys?
we're fine. How
Doing
are
well.
you?
Doing well.
So, Elisabetta, do I get it right that you are from Bomarzo?
Yes, kind of right, because actually I grew up in Bagnoregio, but
Oh,
I've been living in Bomarzo since I was 17.
and what did you mean, Robert?
I met him in New York City. Uh, I was studying in New York City an LLM in intellectual property law, and we casually meet at an event there.
And then you got him, and then you brought him back to Tuscia.
Yes.
It was more romantic than that. We met at an art show, and
Oh, that's nice. That's
so
very nice.
saw each other. We locked eyes while we were kind of looking at some of the art, and then later in the night we kind of like were hanging around, and then we kind of bumped into each other, and then it was kind of
That
meant to
is
be.
cute. That is very cute. So, Robert, I just introduced Benedetta, and I stopped because you guys came on board. And
Sorry.
Benedetta is a local, and she's gonna be around. Versus you are gonna be gone very soon. So we want to hear a little bit about you. What do you do, and who do you work for? And eventually, you will tell us why Tuscia. Of course, it's because Elisabetta, but go for it.
Sure. So yeah, I've worked in like the design industry for a long period of time. I was more of a fine artist and painter. That's like so some of my work behind me. But then my brother was a programmer, and he kind of introduced me more into like, you know, technical work, and I moved into web design and then front end development, and then got into like, you know, application design and UI and UX work. So I've been in self-employed. I've been technical director at a firm, and now my current role is creative director at a tech startup in Minneapolis. And the name is Filter, and we're working on transforming manufacturing.
This is very, very cool. Let me see if Julia and Benedetta have a question for you before I go deep. Julia, do you want to ask something to Robert and Elisabetta?
Yes, absolutely. Why? I didn't know that you are in Bomarzo because for a long time I started searching for all the Americans who live in this area because I wanted to meet them and I didn't know about you. So I'm very happy. Now maybe we can meet in person if you like.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, great.
So, Robert and Benedetta, today, and Elisabetta, today in the morning I was in Bomarzo and I knock at Angela's door, the mother of Sigfrido. You guys know Sigfrido? He's the videographer of Project Tuscia. He's the
I've heard about him. Apparently he's a very talented cinematographer.
Very much. So I knock at the door and I got a coffee. And then before I left, she mentioned something about a cherry jelly. And I said, don't I get anything? And I actually came home with a jelly. So Benedetta, do you have a question for the lovely couple?
Yeah, actually, I'm quite intrigued by the whole romance at the very beginning because Julia was a bit abrupt about it. It sounded more romantic than he wanted to say. I'm just kidding, of course, guys. It's none of my business, but it's good to see you.
Yeah.
Very good. So, okay, it is established that your romantic meeting, it was lovely, and we are very much intrigued. So, Robert, of course, it's because Elisabetta, but tell us about Tuscia. You know, we are biased, right? We love our land. Tell us about Tuscia. How do you like it?
I like it. I love it actually. So it's definitely day and night to maybe living in Manhattan, right? But I think that there are certain things that this area has to offer that you just don't find in the suburbs of Long Island, for example, where I grew up. There's also kind of more of a sense of community and history and culture that you find in small ways that are kind of captivating. And when you're aware of it and looking for it, it's really genuine and nice.
So, Robert, just a question. How was your life in Minneapolis?
Well, I never lived in Minneapolis. I just work for a firm there, actually. I visit there often. And it's fun. It gets quite cold. So it's not so good in the winter, maybe. But yeah, I have maybe 60 people at the company. And I think around 20 or 30 of them are full-time employees in Minneapolis. So actually next week I'm flying out to meet the other leaders in the company, and we're doing them are all doing a large company offsite where all 60 people are going to Los Angeles for a kind of like cooperative workflow.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. So if you are not from Minneapolis, where are you from?
I'm from Long Island. This like 45 minutes east of Manhattan.
So it's a relatively small city?
I think it's an average kind of suburb that you might find, I think, across the US. Yeah.
So tell us the main difference between where you live in America and where you live now in Tuscia.
I mean, the language is probably the main thing. I don't know. I think that there aren't that many differences. I think I've traveled a little bit before I moved here. And so I got the feeling from my travels that, I mean, if you're passionate about something and you know what you want in your life, I think that you can be happy anywhere. But I think moving here gave me the opportunity to kind of like, I don't know, travel a little bit more, get a different point of view on the world, more kind of heritage, things like this. So yeah, I don't know. It's a little bit different, but it's not that different, I think.
Robert, you are about to become a celebrity in Bomarzo. The mayor of Bomarzo say hi.
Perfect. Hello. Ciao, ciao.
Elisabetta, do you know Marco Perniconi, the mayor of Bomarzo?
Yes, sure.
Cool. Okay, so Robert, I hope we are going to impress you at least a little bit. We are very impressed with you. But tonight we were lucky enough to have Benedetta. Benedetta is involved in another project to promote Tuscia, but in a completely different angle. Our cat, Julia, correct me or add to what I'm saying, is kind of presenting the territory in his uniqueness, in his art, maybe food, right? Am I getting right, Julia? What do you think?
Yes, it is something really original in my opinion, because I have so much to share with cinema and many places, many actors and actresses. I mean, even from the United States, we have many connections in this field, and it's very important that we have people here that are able to make this aspect of Tuscia know all around the world. So that's what we are doing right now. And so I really admire Benedetta for her job and for the job of course, her organizations, because there are many people who are working at the same projects together. So, and I just want to share that we met this morning with Benedetta. It is such a nice, really incredible opportunity. Sometimes life gives us, and we never expect. So, if you want just to introduce a little bit of what happened this morning.
So you two guys didn't know each other before today in the morning, right?
Oh no, we met actually. We met just one time, but today I was in a class. I was attending a course, and she was my teacher, and I didn't know about this evening that we were going to meet in this broadcast.
It was so much fun because I said to her, she mentioned you, Giulio, and I said, "Oh, look, I'm actually going to talk to Giulio. He's going to interview me tonight." She said, "What time?" I said, 9:30 p.m. well, actually, I'm going to be the one who's going to interview you. I said, well, what's going on? What's going on? Let's talk about serendipity, please.
Yes, serendipity.
This
Yes.
is
So much fun.
fantastic. So
Mhm.
our
Crazy.
dimension, Robert, is really this kind of dimension. Like
Mhm.
in some sense, everybody that has some energy, some will, you know, some push, is gonna meet somehow. But let me get back to Benedetta. So Benedetta, tell us a little bit about yourself and what do you want to present about Tuscia?
Sure, thank you. May I say just one thing before I start with the official pitch? Because I've seen that Roberto Re is commenting here, and Roberto is the king of the pyramid of Bomarzo. And I've been wanting to meet him for a long time. Ciao, Roberto. Seriously, this is crazy tonight. Anyway, well, my name is Benedetta Lomoni. I'm the president of an association called Tuscia Terra di Cinema. A colleague of mine is Mauro Morucci, who's very popular for the Tuscia Film Fest. The other partner we have is the Comune di Soriano nel Cimino. And we won exactly the same regional call that you guys won with a project called Tuscia Terra di Cinema again, sorry. Basically, our aim is to promote our territory from a narrower standpoint, if you wish, which is the cinema, of course, because not many people know that our land has been used over time as a location for many famous movies. So why not talk about it? Anything specific that you want to know?
Well, I'm gonna ask you a specific question in a bit, but let me just reinforce what you said. So, Robert, we are incredibly proud of our land, right? And in particular, for a long time, our director came from somewhere in Italy and chose Tuscia to go for it. And really, it was a surprise for us because we thought this is just Tuscia where we live every day. Maybe, Elisabetta, maybe you have the same feeling. No, you grew up next to a fantastic place, right? Civita di Bagnoregio is incredible, right? But it
Yes.
was just Civita for you, right? Am I right? What do you say, Elisabetta?
I mean, I played in Civita kind of the whole summer when I was a kid. And yes, I remember even meeting Prince Charles of UK there. So I think, yes, I think
That
it was
is fantastic.
yeah, it says everything.
It was just another day in Civita, right?
Exactly.
I mean, I think that's something that's really beautiful about being here too, right? It's like you can also, I guess maybe to jump back to like the other point about the difference between America, right? America is more commercialized and there aren't as many mom and pop shops, right? If you go into the old part of Bagnoregio or in Civita, for example, there's like this cultural, like, you know, tradition that you might find there that, oh, they have a certain type of plate or a certain type of thing that they've been, that the family next door brings over. And that's how they, you know, make that jam that they gave to you that you brought home that day, right? Or, you know, a certain type of pasta they produce in a homemade recipe that's just slightly different, but like uniquely memorable and not really reproducible in another sense, right? It's a unique experience that I think is really something you don't find in other places. And like, I think the other thing that's cool is like, yeah, I didn't know about half the stuff when I came here. Then I go for a walk in the woods and, oh, there's ancient pyramids in the woods right here. And then, there's just beautiful waterfalls like right around the corner. And there's this village where, I don't know, that was the inspiration for like famous movies in Japan, like, you know, Civita. There's like all this little piece of history and interesting, I don't know, story. Like,
do you mind if I show Civita?
No, sure. Yeah, that's what it is right there.
That is remarkable, huh?
That's where my wife's mother was born and grew up, in Civita.
That is fantastic. I'm always so impressed by Civita. I just can't believe it. Okay, so forget it. So yeah, you're right. This is the same feeling I get. I live in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is a very famous destination for everybody, but I don't know. It's remarkable. Here you go 5K in one direction, 3 miles in another direction. You find this fantastic spot. Now, Robert, Benedetta and I, with Elizabeth and Benedetta, I'm having problem tonight. We prepare a little thing. Of course, we want to impress you. So let it be clear, okay? We are on the mission to impress you, and you have to go to America and say, you guys have to go to Tuscia, okay? So this is
Sure.
what we want to show you. Let's see if we can get it right.
Oh,
So
goodness.
this is a remarkable piece of real estate, right? Benedetta, please take over.
A remarkable piece of real estate. This is the landmark of Viterbo, our city. It's the Papal Palace. And yeah, besides being famous for having been the place where the first conclave took place, we're talking about mid 13th century. It was the first and the longest as well, because it lasted for 33 months, if I'm not wrong.
Correct.
But from our standpoint, from a movie standpoint, this is basically the natural set for the famous Othello by Orson Welles. We are talking about 1950s, more or less, last century. A fantastic movie, a sort of reinterpretation by Orson Welles of the famous Shakespearean play, a movie that he directed, interpreted, and produced. He did the whole lot, basically the full Monty. The film was so good that it actually won the what's the equivalent of the current Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival. It was called the Grand Prix back at the time in 1952. And why we talk about it, you know, in terms of what's the link with the Papal Palace, because basically there is a scene where the loggia, the threefold arches are very visible. But the funny thing when it comes to movies that there is this kind of magic that transforms things. So if you go online and search for the movie and watch the actual movie, you would see that at some point you see the loggia, and behind the loggia there is the ocean, a sort of sea, and there is a vessel sailing away. Of course, in real life, as you can tell, maybe by this picture as well, there is no ocean behind it. I mean, there is what's it called? Foul Valley. You know, there's a valley, a green area. So there's nothing like the ocean behind it. But what's really interesting is that Orson Welles was one of the first famous movie makers back in the 50s that decided to film in Viterbo. After him, we had, of course, the famous Fellini and many, many others. I don't want to spoil everything tonight, but yeah, I'm going to give you just a little teaser just to understand that there is so much to see also from a different standpoint from the usual story about the popes in town and the conclave, which is very interesting to know because it adds to our own culture, I think. But there is also this entertaining kind of story, you know, that you can discuss at dinner time with friends and say, well, look, Orson Welles was there. He filmed for about 3 years. It took him 3 years to actually shoot the entire movie. It was released in the US after the Cannes Film Festival in 1952, if I remember correctly. And it was acclaimed by the critics and the public as well, because it was, and it still is, a very enjoyable movie. I mean, Orson Welles was kind of a character in himself.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
but
yeah.
he was a great movie director. So yeah, he actually filmed also inside the little church in Via Scienzi, which is called Santa Maria della Salute, the circular one. The scene filmed in there was about the strangling of Desdemona. And apparently, the newspapers at the time, the local newspapers, especially the ones published in Rome, so close to the Vatican, if I may say so, were a bit upset about this thing because it's kind of weird that you film a strangling of a woman inside the sacred place. But it all added to, you know, building up to the expectation of people who eventually went to the movies and watched the film. So it's kind of interesting, I think, from our perspective. I'm biased as well, as you know.
Benedetta, I
yeah.
got a private message, and it says Benedetta is bella, beautiful, brava, very good, and simpatica. Congratulations.
Is that my brother or
No,
family?
no.
Right. Thank you so much.
So,
Goodness me.
Elisabetta, question for you. Did you take Robert to Palazzo Papale? Could you hear me?
I
No!
took it outside. And
Yeah. Come on. Okay, there is something wrong here, Robert. Okay. So,
Well, you can go inside.
There's a lot. To be fair, there's a lot to see around. To be honest, so it's oftentimes where like you travel around to search for things, but sometimes there's beautiful things in your back door or your backyard that you don't actually go out of your way. Yeah.
So, Robert, why don't you tell us what you have seen actually?
What I've seen? I mean, you just had it on the background of this video. I don't know if you called it out, but that is the old part of Viterbo right there, right? If you pull it back up. So I mean, seen a lot of things. I think there's a lot of beauty in like the small towns. I mean, just walking around the old part of Bomarzo, for example. The other day, I never walked around this one random street, for example, right? I went for a walk the other day. I actually ran into Roberto Re that day. But there's little things that you just kind of don't pick up on. Like I didn't know it was even a street or if it was private. So I walked down it. It took me around kind of the outside part of the old part of Bomarzo. And it was just an incredible view that I've never seen before, right? You get to kind of see the rolling hills. There's kind of like no people, no building and infrastructure kind of like breaking that natural kind of like scenery. And then like out in the distance, you also see Bagnaia sticking out across the hill, like, over the valley. So talk about stuff like this, or I don't know, for Christmas, talking about the Palace of the Popes, right? We went there for Christmas, and Viterbo did this beautiful arrangement of all these types of, vendors and like, filled the old parts, like this historic center with all these beautiful lights. And so there's, cafes, you can take a cocktail and hang out. My son was running around following some kind of polar bear costume guy running around. It was really nice. And so there's something interesting, just like you say about the church, right? Of this deathly scene in this church, right? There's something very interesting about having a point of very sharp contrast of having the modern life in the I don't know, the footsteps of this historic place. And like Christmas music and Bing Crosby songs like projected out and, full light across some like old castle. It's incredible.
I couldn't agree more. I feel very good when Robert speaks. What do you think, Giulia?
Yes, absolutely. He is presenting so well. Particularly, he is saying something new, another perspective about Tuscia, and I do love the contrast. Robert, you told us about the fact that Viterbo is a real ancient city that, of course, has a modern life, so there is a kind of contrast, and it is beautiful. I like this, this perspective view.
So, Robert, there is something I think you just brushed on. So you are the artistic director of your company. What does that mean?
I mean, everything visually, not just visual, but the design of how something is used. How something, understanding and empathizing with somebody who's trying to accomplish something, right? And figuring out a way to make it easy for them to accomplish that task while also making it aesthetically pretty, right? So the company I'm working for works in the manufacturing space, where our software is something that manufacturers use to do everything that they want to do, right? Like figuring out what they have to build, inventory, the production timelines of operators actually doing the work. So it's super, super complex. And there's a lot of things that are important in manufacturing. You can imagine every type of manufacturer between, if they're custom shop or working with metal or food or pharmaceuticals, they all have different needs. And so my job is to think about what those people are doing and how to make their workflows easier to do. Generally.
So, do we sense a little bit of this when you describe Tuscia? I mean, you have a different perspective. I never heard describe Tuscia the way you did. It sounds like you have a keen sensitivity for complexity. And for example, I would have never mentioned Bagnaia the way you mentioned, but you're right, it is there, right?
But it's just something you wouldn't find in the States, right? I mean, you might see a Walmart out in the distance, right? But you don't, unless you're out in like, you know, there's some incredible parks, you know, and wildlife in the States. But I think what's really nice about here, and something that's been retained a little bit, is that there are small, dense population centers, and then wilderness, and then another dense kind of city center, and they're all kind of like sprinkled around the landscape, usually with some towering, you know, structure that calls out that you can see from far away. So when you randomly, you know, at night, when you like have like floodlights splashing on the mountain of Soriano, for example, and you're driving through the hills, and all of a sudden it just jumps out at you next to the moon, it's not something you can recreate in the United States. It's not something I've ever experienced until I came here, really.
I really feel good when you speak. I think you should speak more about Tuscia. We're gonna get
official ambassador.
What did you say, Benedetta?
Official ambassador, basically. He's so good at promoting it.
Sure.
And you did not grow up here. Maybe that's why. So, guys, it has been half hour already. Time flies. Every time we finish, I always give a chance to all my guests to have a last comment or something they wanted to put it out there and they didn't have a chance. So Giulia is a pro, so I'm going to start with Giulia and then Benedetta. So Giulia, a last comment, something you want to tell our guests or something you want to let us know?
Yes, first of all, I would really happy to meet them in real life, maybe to get to know each other better, and also to talk about my association, Italian Human Connections, that aims just to create connection between the United States and Tuscia. So you are just the perfect people to share this project with. Yeah.
That is very correct. You, Robert, you don't know this, but you are the target. We love people that come, are impressed, and of course fall in love with our beautiful women. As you can see, all my guests are gorgeous women, and many of you should come and possibly bring business and money and so forth. So, sure. Benedetta, your chance. You want to let us know something that you didn't have a chance to say before?
Yeah, I would like to build on what Giulia was saying. The name of her association is fantastic. So I think it's all about human association when it comes to doing something for our territory. I mean, I'm going back to what we were talking about before we went online. I think we need cooperation. I think we need more cooperation. We need helping each other, because the aim, like we said before, is the same. So if we want to promote Tuscia, so why not make a bigger team and work all together and do, you know, create occasions like tonight, which to me is fantastic. So thank you again for inviting me and having me, because it's been a fantastic pleasure. Thank you so much. And meeting you guys as well, Robert and Elisabetta. I'll come and see you in Bomarzo.
Sure. Robert, you're gonna get a bunch of guests now.
Yeah, because I mean, here, I mean, I was thinking while Robert was talking, there is nothing as such like the famous 6 degrees of separation. It's just one, which is Giulio between us. So if we can get rid of Giulio, we can have coffee together, guys. Basically, that's the bottom line for me.
So, Benedetta, I got another private message. Apparently, you have a very famous brother called Jacopo. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And he is very good friend with an incredibly close friend to me, the one I call Professor Nuccio. So life is short. Life is short, and Viterbo is very small in some sense, and I love it.
1 degree of separation. That's it, guys.
So, Robert and Elisabetta, your chance to say something you didn't have a chance to say, and or you want to let us know. Please go for it.
Yeah, sure. I think that what you guys are trying to accomplish and do is really important. And I would love to participate and find ways to bring more people like myself to these places. I think that there's an enormous amount of opportunity. And I think that with the right connections, we can accomplish a lot.
I couldn't agree more. Elisabetta, what do you say?
Yes, I 100% agree with Benedetta when she talks about cooperation, because each of us can have an idea, but till the time we don't come together, nothing can be done. So we really need to collaborate and to open Tuscia to the world.
About time, I would say.
I love this. I'm so lucky, Robert. I don't know about you, but I feel so lucky. Beautiful women, smart women, capable women, women that want to work together with one goal to bring more people to our lovely land. That is where all of us choose to live. This is fantastic.
But Giulio, men are not that bad either in Tuscia. I mean, the guys are okay.
Robert, what do you say?
I guess they're all right. I don't know.
It's a different perspective, just saying.
Well, I actually met Benedetta with another good friend of mine, Francesco. He's a fun guy, he's a good-looking guy, but of course he likes a little bit too much pasta, I might say. Which is good because pasta is fantastic. Today, I couldn't resist. I was far away from a pasta place. I called, order ravioli, ricotta, spinaci. And I went there. They were ready in the thing. I brought them home. And man, I had a moment. Okay. So to all of you guys, thank you so very much. Robert, please don't be a stranger. Elisabetta, please don't be a stranger. Benedetta, you passed with flying color. You have been fantastic.
Thank you, Professor.
Oh, sure. You are a professor, right? Oh, Roberto, that is our common thread, says, wait, come here because in Etrusca there is that pasta from Felice Guido.
I'm game.
All of you guys, with Roberto's word, that is how many beautiful people this evening. Too bad I don't know English so well. I hug all of you guys. So again, a big thank you to all of you guys. It has been a lot of fun. Nobody become a stranger. Everybody stays around, and we are gonna do this again. Okay, guys?
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Thank
Nice
you.
guys. Take care.
Regista, com'è andata oggi?
Bene, benissimo, come sempre. Ci vediamo alla prossima, Giulio.
Dalla Tuscia